Are we live? We should be live. Anybody out there in YouTube land? Are we still on Twitch too? I think we're on Twitch too. Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? Hi! We are live. Hi, everybody. So, got some repairs today. Start off with a nice easy one for a Monday morning. Well, Monday afternoon. It's a nice hot day in New York City. It's going to be a hot week this week. What am I starting with? I'm starting with a A1466 with no backlight. Nice, easy one. There's my overhead cam. There it is. So, standard, every day. Sometimes people complain that we didn't do any diagnosis, there was no troubleshooting and stuff like that on the stream. That's not what most of the day is. Most of the day is not troubleshooting. If you actually had to like fully troubleshoot out and test everything for every single board that comes in, I think you would go absolutely insane doing that for every single job. But here we just have a 1466 no backlight, and I'll show you in a bit here. This is the fuse here, backlight area. Some asshat soldered a wire over the fuse because the fuse was burnt. Oh, these connectors. I want to make a note on these. We've been having more and more other shops, people at home, sending their machines to us because they've destroyed these antenna connectors. These are very standard. They're not just in MacBooks, they're just about in everything. Cell phones have them. They're popular. Anything that has a transmission source, reception source. So they're just I think they're coaxial connectors. I think that's what you call them. Little pop-ons. That's all they do is just pop straight down. And all you do is get your tweezer underneath the metal. You can go as far as the wire, but I wouldn't touch the wire. Right underneath the metal and just straight up. And they come right off that easy. Too many of these have been ripped off lately. Other shops don't know how to do it. People don't know how to do it. I understand people not knowing how to do that, but another shop, doesn't matter what you work on. You've seen these before. Cancel the connectors. I don't have a magnet. I need a screw magnet. Does Lewis have magnets? Lewis doesn't have any magnets over here. Boo-hoo. One moment, please. Okay, I brought a couple magnets with me. The best way to not lose your screws. Put a magnet on the side of your screwdriver, and that's where the screws go as soon as you pull them off, right on the magnet. Hey, JP. So yeah, we've been having a bunch of computers coming in from different shops that weird things are ripped off and screws are missing and screws in the wrong spots. It's inexcusable in my opinion that you're charging a customer and you're the one breaking everything. Okay, so this is a 1466, 2015 00165 board. We have no backlight, and through somebody's wonderful findings, we found out that the fuse is blown. So they put a piece of wire over the fuse, and of course, as soon as you turn it on, it blew again. The little wire just melted immediately. Well, yeah, the fuses don't usually blow for no reason. Sometimes they do. I have to give it that. Every once in a while, a fuse just goes because a fuse wants to go. Or maybe there was moisture in the system, so the fuse went. Now the moisture's dried out, so you're not really going to find the reason why the fuse went. But, yeah, that's... Let's get that off of there. Some fume extraction. So with this one, I want to keep my hot air away from the Wi-Fi card and the connector, and I don't really want to overheat the LCD connector either, but this can up here, this can take some heat, so I'm just aiming towards the can. Get this fuse out of here. Now before I change that fuse, let's go look at the backlight driver. So the backlight driver is directly on the other side of the board, and that looks like it has some junk underneath that one side. So backlight drivers are easy, we get them new, they go all the time. Even if it just a little bit of junk like that, let's get this thing off the board. This is probably the reason. It could be the screen, but I'm taking this off anyway. So the backlight driver is something called the LP8550. This is very common in MacBooks. I think it's common among other things too. It's a standard LED driver. Oh yeah, there's some schmutz under there. Clean up the schmutz. Some fresh solder. And we'll get some goot wick in here, clean up the pads. Want the pads pretty good and flat. Take a Q-tip, I'll clean up all of that nastiness. All that flux has absorbed all of that. I'm gonna get that out of there so we make good, clean solder joints. Pile of poop with a face. Poop emoji. Oh, thanks for the $1. I guess you can't do emojis on this? That's nice and clean. A little bit of flux. Grab a new backlight driver. Plop. Okay, I just know from experience that the pinout of this in the top right corner is pin number 1. Just put that right there. And it won't let go of my tweezers, of course. And just get some hot air on it. There you go. It's about in place. And we just heat it till it falls right into place. Is Lewis in the shop today? That's the wrong Lewis. There's nobody here by that name. No, but I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's still up in Wisconsin, if he's on his way back. I have not heard. Okay, so that's a new driver. Let's put on a new fuse. Hold on. That was my last fuse. I need to get more fuse. This one I'm just going to tack one leg on with a soldering iron. And then I'll come in and finish it off with some hot air. A little bit of flux. I did see the preview of Lewis's dog video, and yeah, I agree that Mr. Clinton will probably take on any dog. Mr. Clinton's a tough little cat. A little bit of cleanup of this. A little bit more alcohol. There we go. There we go, it's nice and clean. Connector looks good. Doesn't look like there's any liquid damage. Some stickiness over here, not sure what that is. I think we just melted some MacBook food. Normal areas that liquid get on. That's the SMC reset chip. That looks good. This is PP3V42. That looks good. The JTAG will let you live. Yeah, this board looks okay. So I guess it was just that little bit of schmutz under the backlight driver. That's all that was wrong. So, overhead. Lost the little rubber piece that goes on the end of the board. That board's still a little hot. Let's do some rapid cooling. Now that's cool. Okay, let's see if backlight's working. Right in this corner here, you got to be careful when putting the board back in because of the antenna wires and the heatsink. The antenna wire came out all along. Got to make sure it tucks back into its little slot here, or else when you put the back case on, the back case contacts right here, it could squish the antenna wires. I don't need to connect everything. Let's just see if we got backlight. Do that. Let's do some power. And everybody wants to see green light, so let's connect that. The board will power without this, but you don't get any green light over here. So do we have some backlights? That's a dirty screen. Do we have some fan spin? Do we have a green light? I have an orange light. I have fan spin. And what do I got? What do I got? What do I got? I got chime. I got backlight. I got Apple logo. There you go. That's one repair done. That desperately needs to be cleaned. That screen is terrible. It'll look beautiful when we're done. So now, I have for you a treat especial. Now, if you recognize this one, anybody that's around often. Yes, it is another 2159 MacBook Pro from 2019. with the exact same problem that we described before. So this chip and this chip, the normal ISLs, are shorted to ground. Wow, that's some bent probe. 1.8 ohms to ground. This one here, 1.4 ohms to ground. Both of them shorted. Check the backlight driver. This backlight driver is okay. You got 1 meg there. $122K. We're charging up some capacitors there. So backlight should be fine, unless there's something wrong with the screen. And the normal ISL, GAY drivers are dead. So we have here replacements. So this is now, makes about a dozen of these machines in the shop. The same problem. 1, 2. There we go. Microscope. That was an unearned giggity. So yet again, these have got to go. Seems to be there's a debate over hot air station versus a Wagner paint gun. One of the best technicians I've ever known says that he exclusively uses a Wagner paint gun. He never wanted to invest in a hot air station. If the Wagner paint gun just heats too big of an area, you have less control over what temperature you're at, how much air is flowing out of it. It's not a good idea to use them. What was orientation? Okay. And it's ergonomics too. This is just a small little handle that I'm holding, not a gigantic heat gun. So to avoid having to add solder later, I'm going to add a little bit of solder to these pads. Hopefully I increase the solder a little bit. We're putting a brand new chip on here, so it has no solder on it. So it's either we go around afterwards, or we add some now. I prefer going around afterwards, but it was shown in the last video. This is a really tight area. I'll dip this in a little bit of flux over here. Got a little pool of flux because I used too much. So I'm just going to dip it in there, pull that back over to here. And focus, you fuck. One really wants a jeweler's electronics microscope, but no one has the funds. These aren't that expensive. $300? And that's, you could save that up for after a little while. $300 is attainable. this one. Create a little bit more of a fillet on that one side. There you go. That looks good. No, I don't buy my own flux, but I do have to clean my own boards. If you have somebody else cleaning your board for you, then you don't care how dirty you get it. When you have to clean your board, then you pay attention to how dirty you're getting it. Using a toothbrush to clean the board's not ideal because it doesn't pick anything up. The fibers that a Q-tip leave you could deal with that. You just twist the Q-tip and it picks up its own fibers. But how do you get the flux off the board with a toothbrush? You just keep spraying enough alcohol to go all over the board? I don't want to get the entire board wet with alcohol. No, you're not in the US, so it's more expensive for a microscope. What about shipping from like AliExpress or something like that? Is shipping ridiculous for you? Like if you're willing to go to AliExpress, you get a decent microscope for a real good price. But shipping just might be insane. Plus, a microscope for the average user is cheaper than what we get because you don't need the camera port. Yeah, the mount is very heavy. The microscope mount is extremely heavy to keep it stable, so yeah, they probably kill you with shipping that thing. If you can get away with, if you have a dedicated desk like what we have here, you don't need the weight mount. You can actually just bolt it straight to the desk. That's an option. Just don't get it and get a good table to bolt it straight to. Yeah, toothbrush with alcohol and then toothbrush with paper towel and alcohol. You're adding a bunch of steps. I'm sure that works if you have a giant mess, but this chip is tiny. And yeah, I'm leaving some stray strands. All I do is twist the Q-tip over top of it, picks up all its stray strands. And once you get it clean enough, the stray strands just blow away anyway. Because there's nothing for them to stick to. Clean up this one. Barpadocal. Okay, let's see how this is working now. Go overhead. Lower that. That board's kind of hot. Let's do some rapid cooling. Okay, we don't need fume extraction anymore. A little less noise. Make sure the rubber stays in place. So now let's see if their screen's working. So that's the other popular thing to happen here, is that the screen doesn't work. I have a test screen ready to test and make sure the board works if the screen's not working. We could go backwards. We could try a test screen first and then go to the board, but save a step if this is working already. Okay, screen. What else? I'm not going to connect anything else. Just the screen. Charge port. Battery cable's fallen. Let's get that to the side. Okay. USB-C. Let's see how much power it takes. 20 volts, 1.24 amps, or 0.124, sorry. So 3/4 of an amp, half an amp, 0.6, 600 milliamps. Do I see an Apple logo? I don't see a backlight or Apple logo yet. I have Apple logo. Yeah, you can kind of see that. I have an Apple logo. I have no backlight. So let's try a test screen. So maybe it's in the screen. All this comes back to backlight. Something's going on with backlight. There's some good suggestions to take a look into from our last video. Some of them I don't know. Some of the good suggestions were maybe something's wrong with the backlight that's feeding back into it, but there's more sensitive things on that line than those two ISLs. So I don't know if it's the backlight feeding back into it or not. I don't know. We're still looking into it. Still trying to figure it out. So there's some good suggestions though. It's a good discussion in the doobly-doo below. Let me go get a charge board. I don't have a charge board. One moment. He's back. Okay, charge port. You have to lift the board so that the sleep sensor doesn't think the lid is closed. Let's see if we get Apple logo on this. And we got Apple logo with backlight. So it's another bad screen too, and that almost makes this this board or this job undoable. It's just it gets too expensive there. So just like the last one that I fixed, we found out that the screen was bad, and it was just too expensive for the customer. They wound up just recycling the device with us. So this one, I don't know how much. We need to try to get screens for cheaper. Screens are hard to come by. because this isn't just the screen. This is the screen assembly. You can't just pull out the LCD. This is the whole screen assembly. There's something wrong with the screen daughter board here. You need to look into the screen daughter board. I have the old screen, the other screen too, but this is not really a viable repair sometimes. Wah, wah, wah. We can get replacement screens, it's just that they're expensive. It makes the overall repair of this job just too much for a lot of people. Although the machine it's only 2 years old, and it did cost a lot of money to get the machine new. So they do still have enough value, but it's just getting there where it's very close to the replacement value of the entire thing from eBay or something like that. But at least the board is working. We should be able to pull data off of it if we need to. Well, yeah, we can. Just, hook up another screen or put it in another test housing. So we could pull data off of it, so their data's saved. Because this has a soldered-on hard drive, so it's not like you can just take your data with you. We need to recover it off of it, copy it to something portable. So that's something. At least this is viable for data recovery, to get the machine up and running again and get the person's data off of it. So that's more important than the machine, is all of your pictures and all of your files off of it. Scroll for chat a little bit. Any good conversation going on here? Class action about the gate chips? I'd like to know. I guess we need like a real engineer to analyze how these chips failed. I have some failed chips here. I could always send them to some engineer or something, or somebody stops by to actually look at it, maybe analyze the chip, put it in one of those Nordson 3D X-rays, see exactly what went wrong in it. Maybe the monitor too, backlight. See, we need to figure out what's happening here. This failure, because just because it's failing, I don't know if that's a reason for a class action. But finding out why it failed and what steps could have been taken, if any, to keep it from failing. Did they buy substandard chips? Is it even their fault? Is it what is it? Renesas makes this chip. Did they make a bad batch of chips? Is this whole batch that went to the Apple factory, is that bad? Then it's not really Apple's fault. You can't blame Toyota for having a Tanaka airbag. Can't blame Apple for having a bad chip in it. Unless they purposely paid less for it, knowing that it was flawed. You'll never find any of that out, so. Microsoft Surface laptop also has a solder drive. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going for soldered drives now. I don't see any reason for it. I don't think it's any faster. There's no way it's any faster. Maybe it's making the machine slimmer, but I can't see that much either. There's no reason to have a soldered drive. Motherboard that fries the display, or display fries the motherboard. Wondering about that. The 5 volts, that is a good... Yeah, it's right over the mic, sorry. That is a good thought. That is a good thought path to take. Because is it the screen that's sending some weird voltage back on that 5 volts? Because that 5 volts does go to the screen as well for the camera. So is something on the screen causing the feedback that's killing all this stuff? That could be. That could very well be. I have the other screen for the guy that recycled it with us. Thank you. I'm going to wind up tearing that whole thing apart and checking everything on that daughter board and see if I can figure out if something did a capacitor short closed on that screen and sent backlight for an instant down the 5 volt line. But then I would think more would die. I don't know. This is a weird thought experiment. Hope you learned something. Don't trust a MacBook with your data. You never know when there's a lot of failures in MacBooks that cause them to never turn on again. And with the soldered on SSD, there's no way to get your data back. Always make a backup of your stuff. Never trust it on one device, on one, especially a soldered in hard drive device or something like that. Never trust your data on that. Like, this includes your phone. Especially anybody who has iPhones, all you have is the internal storage. You don't have a SD card slot. At least if you have an SD card slot, your phone could get, like Lewis, get burnt up on a bike that went on fire, and we can still peel the thing open, get the SD card out, and there's all your data. So always keep a backup. Always keep something on external. Never trust a soldered in external or internal memory for all of your important stuff. Not a good idea. Cloud is okay. You have to worry about hacking, but it doesn't happen often enough unless you're some target or something like that. It doesn't really happen. Hey, Paul Daniels. Well, that's the beginning of my day. So, 2 repairs, one done, one half done. Let's go see what else is in the queue. I might be back later. Have a good day.